Imagine quitting your job in IT, moving to Italy, spending your days drinking cappuccinos, eating the best pasta, and visiting some of the most beautiful places, and making more money in the process. It sounds like a dream, right?
Frappe.
This is the Colm Flynn podcast, and my guest today is someone who did just that. His name is Mountain Butorac, and on social media he's better known as the Catholic Traveller. He lives in Rome, where he gives tours to some of the city's most famous spots.
So if you've ever been to Rome on Christmas or Easter,
But also has hundreds of thousands of followers online, where he shares the best places for coffee,
all right, so we've had our coffee, our
pasta, and the hidden surprises of this great city. And in this interview, Mountain tells me about how he started his working life in the music business.
Some of our bands that made it big, Alanis Morissette,
Oh wow!
Green Day.
And how one day, after taking a trip to Italy and loving it so much, started to think about how he could make it his full-time job.
Oh, I knew right away I was never going back to IT. I was going to make this work somehow.
How did you do it?
I did not do it the right way.
And despite the lack of experience and the huge risk of walking away from a steady job providing for his family, he took a chance, quit, and started his tour company.
But what's really exciting is when I take people to see the Pope for the first time.
To see their reaction. And now that he's built up a huge audience online, how he can sometimes get blowback from his followers for the things that he loves.
Hey, look, I'm not satanic because I listen to Taylor Swift. She sounds ridiculous.
This is the Colm Flynn podcast and an interview with the Catholic Traveller, live here in Rome, Mountain Butorac. Welcome to my apartment. This is your first time here?
It is, yeah.
What do you think?
There's a lot of spotlights in it.
There is. It's very, it's not very natural, is it?
A lot of cameras set up.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you just got back from Ireland.
I did yesterday.
How was my home country?
Amazing. I love it.
Did it rain?
It did rain. It did. But I like to, with Ireland, I like to tell people, you come to places like Rome and you see the work that God can do through man, with the art and the churches. And you go to Ireland to see God showing off. Like with the nature and the waterfalls and the cliffs, and I just love it. And the people, it's just amazing.
What was the best stop or your favorite thing that you did on the tour? Because I know you had like 12 or 13 people with you.
I had seven. I had two trips. I had one that was 7 people, just a small group of friends basically. And then the second group was 17 people.
What about getting around the bends in the rural areas in that big bus?
We had an excellent driver.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because that was a big bus.
We didn't hit anything. Yeah, it
Wow.
was. It
And
was a 58 passenger bus.
The cool thing was that you visited my parents' house.
That was a highlight.
You went to see my mom and dad at home. We were talking the day before and you said, hey, if we go to your parents' house tomorrow, you think we can see your dad's famous shed?
Yeah.
Where we have like a little bar and the disco lights. So the whole bus stopped off.
It was amazing. Yeah, we pulled up to his house in this 58 passenger coach. Your dad was out in the driveway waving.
That's brilliant.
And like neighbors were looking out like, what is going on? They probably don't get a lot of tour buses in the neighborhood.
They're like, what are the Flynns up to now?
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to get you on the podcast, Mountain, and thanks for doing this, by the way.
Thank you.
I know you had to come a long way to do it.
Almost a whole block.
A whole block away, 60 seconds down the street. But I think for lots of Americans who'll be watching this, and people in general, you're kind of living the dream. Am I right in saying
I'm living
that?
my dream for sure, yeah.
But you're a guy who left your life in the States, moved to Italy. You're not working for the man.
No.
You're doing your own thing
Yeah.
that you're passionate about.
Right.
You're bringing people around beautiful places all year round, and you're getting paid for it.
Yes.
And you get to stay here with your family.
Yeah.
So I want to find out how you did it, what you do, and what you've kind of learned along the way. Because I know you started your company, The Catholic Traveller, in 2014, was it?
No, 2004.
Oh, 2004?
Yeah.
Way before that.
Yeah, my first trip was in 2005, but I started in 2004.
So you started when you were in the States?
Yeah.
You're from Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes.
What was it like growing up in Atlanta, Georgia? What were you into? What was your passion? Travel then? What was it?
No, I was raised in the music industry. So my dad was a little bit of a rock star when he was growing up in the Midwest. My mom had a record store. So I grew up going to concerts. My first babysitters were like the coat check girls at a club.
Whoa.
Like, here's our jacket, here's our kid, and then like, let's go watch a show.
So you'd be sitting, listening to the show and watching it?
Yeah.
When you were from a
When
little...
I was little, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you think of that world of music and
I loved
rock and
it.
roll? Yeah.
And my parents were into good music, like early punk and rock and roll.
I've met your dad a few times, and he still makes music. He's still
Yeah.
singing and making CDs. And what's his first name again? Mick.
So he just had a few different rock bands, but they would play different bars around the Chicago area. And Mick Jagger and Keith Richards came to see him play once.
How did...
I mean, he was well known.
well, how did Mick Jagger end up coming to see him?
I have no idea. Okay. They were just in town, and they were like, we need to go check out this band. So
That's awesome. That's incredible. So the music was the passion in the house.
right.
Was faith a passion in the house as well?
Nope.
No, not at all.
No.
Well, what were you then when you were growing up? Were you Baptist or
Well, my mom hates when I say this, but we were pretty much nothing.
nothing?
Yeah. So my dad was raised Catholic. He tried to go in the seminary when he was young, and there was a problem with the paperwork or something. They said come back next year, and he was like, oh well, I'm just gonna.
Well, then you must have been in a religious house if your dad had once
no,
entered the
because
seminary.
he left the church after that, and then my mom was raised in the South, and so she kind of left all that, and then so when I was born, we were just nothing. And
What happened to your dad that he went and did kind of a big U-turn from wanting to become a priest then to leaving the church completely?
well, if you think about it, I mean, if there's a teenager that's discerning the priesthood, and then they're all ready to go into the seminary, and then they're told like come back next year. I mean, that's kind of a big shock, and he just kind of like, well, if they don't want me, I don't want them.
And it made him turn his back on the whole faith completely.
I don't know if he turned his back, but he just stopped going to church, wasn't interested in becoming a priest anymore, and focused on his music. And so it wasn't until I was in high school that my mom actually said, we're going to become Catholic. My dad was like, oh, I was Catholic. And then my mom and I went through the RCIA program, came into the church, and that's when it started.
What made your mom say that?
She was reading a lot, and she ended up reading some books from the church fathers, and it did something. And she came home from work. It was like, we're going to
And
be...
she said, we're all doing it, the whole family.
Yeah.
And what age were you at the time?
I was probably like 15, 16.
Okay, did you object or did you think, this is
No, I just did what my parents told me.
Okay, and your dad?
Yeah, he was like, all right.
He's like, happy wife, happy life. Okay, he said, I will do this. So that's fascinating. But then music, he was still playing music and playing in bands, and your mom was working in the record store.
Yep.
So I presume then that you might have thought, my future will be in the music industry.
Right. Well, I worked at my mom's record store for a while, and then I worked for a major record label. So I was in the music industry for 10 years.
Okay, you were.
Like during all of this, like after we converted and all that.
Did you go to college?
I did, yeah.
What did you study?
History and journalism.
History and journalism.
I mean, I switched my major like every week.
Really,
I
why?
didn't know what I wanted to do.
Why did you pick journalism? It's a dirty business, trust me. Don't go near it.
Well, I like to write from a young age, and I thought, oh, I can write as a journalist. I don't know.
So you were trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I was trying to
figure
figure it
yourself out as well. And so you did get into the music industry. Which record label were you working with?
Warner Brothers, Elektra, Atlantic.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, major record label.
What were you doing with the record labels?
I did college marketing.
What does that mean? Oh, you were trying to find out what the kids in college, trying to predict what
Well,
the
not
trends
predict.
were.
I was trying to push on them. So we'd have a new like alternative band come along, and I would take it to the radio station, get them to play a certain song, and then when the band would come to town, I would invite the people at the radio station, give away tickets.
So it was like marketing and promotion.
Yeah, it was marketing promotions for alternative rock.
And would you ever hear bands and think, this is woeful, these guys are terrible, but I have got to try and push them?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But they would have already been signed by the record label.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with that. Like I was
You were like,
very,
who
I was
signed?
very low on the record label totem pole.
But they were given to you and you were told, okay, get this on the radio station in this town.
Yeah.
Did you have to travel around the States then?
No,
City to
because my
city?
territory was just the Southeast. So Atlanta, Alabama, Tennessee.
That's really cool. So you'd be going into these like AM stations sometimes, or was it always FM?
No, I think it was all FM at that point,
Like
college
in
radio stations.
Alabama, like, hey, can you play this? And what about this? And it was all CDs, I presume.
Yeah, it was CDs then.
That's cool.
I'm not that old.
No, I know. Sorry.
I was taking them 8 tracks.
You were bringing in the reel to reels.
Yeah.
But any big successes?
Well, I mean, the successes weren't by me. I mean, it was the record label that made the decisions.
Yeah.
I just did it.
But I mean, is there any band that you remember, oh, I got them on all these radio stations and next thing they like exploded in?
Yeah, some of our bands that made it big, Alanis Morissette,
Oh, wow.
Jewel, Third Eye Blind, Matchbox 20, Green Day. So that was all
Green Day.
like,
So you were going around handing out Green Day CDs.
yeah, before they were like big. Like
That's
when
so
it was
cool.
just like their demo.
And how do people react to Green Day when you were going into the places?
Oh, they liked it.
They
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah, I never really had any pushback.
So you got a cut of that.
I got nothing.
You got a cut of that Green Day
I'm
money.
telling you, I was low. I was like hourly worker. I was just
Because the whole premise of the interview was like, how did you do it? How did you leave your life and start here
Mm-hmm.
in Rome living the dream? But now I know. It's that Green Day.
Yeah.
It's that Green Day check. That is awesome.
yeah. I own this building, Colm.
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
your
So
landlord.
you're the one I'm paying rent to. But so 10 years doing that, were you happy?
I was. I mean, that's a great job for someone in their early 20s. I was going to concerts all the time, hanging out with bands, backstage. I was happy in the sense that I was doing what I loved.
And it's a big operation. It's a big machine.
Yeah.
Did you think I want to progress inside the company?
I did for a long time. I wanted to keep moving up.
So what happened? Why did you decide one day to pack it in or leave? Or did
I-
they fire you or what happened?
No, actually, I met my musical hero, and I realized that nothing was going to top that for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was your musical hero?
Robert Smith of The Cure.
Okay.
So that was my favorite band growing up, and they were on our label. I mean, so I was growing up young, listening to The Cure, and then they ended up being on the label that I was working at, and they were already big. I mean, they're considered alternative, but they weren't on college stations. They were already on the major stations.
They were like nationwide.
Right. But they came to Atlanta, and a lot of times what bands do is they want to have an after party or something. And so they're like, we want to have an after party in Atlanta. And so one of my jobs was to find a venue. So I found this club in Atlanta, and the band came after their concert. It was a small concert. It was like 5,000 to 500. It was a very small club show, kind of like a promotional tour they were doing. And Robert Smith just wanted to be kind of behind the velvet rope and have people come in and greet him if that was what they were going to do. And I was in there with him. And so we were sitting at this table for like 4 or 5 hours one night.
Just you and him and the people who were coming to greet him.
Yeah. And then they would, like, a couple people would come in, take a picture, leave. And we were just talking about travel. And I'd just taken my first international trip, loved it. We didn't talk about music at all. I didn't want to say like, oh, I really love that song you wrote, because everybody says that. And he was telling me about all the places that he loved traveling, and I'd never been there. And I was like, I want to do this. And so when I left, the next day I quit my job and I bought a one-way ticket to Rome.
Wait. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
you're talking to him. He's your musical hero. And you're what? Like you're in your 20s at the time?
Yeah, I was probably 26, 24,
But
26.
you did a good job in the music industry. You're after meeting one of your heroes, you could meet more megastars.
Right.
And you'd have probably more access all areas if you went up the ladder. And because you chatted about travel, you just decided the next day to quit and buy another plane
Yeah,
ticket.
it was all like all this stuff happening at the same time. So I was getting more and more into my faith. I had just taken my first trip to Rome. I loved everything here. I met the person that I admired most in the music industry. And it just kind of clicked, like nothing is ever going to top this for me. There's nobody else I could meet that I'd be like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about travel and the church. And I was like, well, I don't need to be hanging out backstage with rock stars anymore. Why don't I pursue my faith and travel?
So it sounds like it was an easy decision for you to make.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the next day I was like, see ya.
And how did the company react?
They're like, all right, we'll find somebody else.
Okay, I suppose, yeah. You know, when you go to companies, they say, we're a family.
Yeah.
Here, we're a family. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
You know, don't let the door hit you on the backside on the way out.
No, they were supportive, but
And your mom and dad, I know you told me before your mom and dad were kind of hippies growing up.
hippie-ish.
Hippie-ish.
More punk than hippie.
In a
but-
good way.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean that in a good way. You know,
Yeah.
free-spirited and
Right.
very supportive. They say, go for it, Mountain, follow your dreams. Or did
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
say...
No, they were
Were
supportive.
they not... We're concerned parents. We don't want you to lose out on this job. And
I was like 24, 26. I don't remember, but I was still living at home. So it wasn't like I was married with kids, living out somewhere. I mean, I really didn't have any responsibilities. I was just living in my parents' bedroom, not their bedroom. I had my own bedroom in their house. So yeah, they were like, no, go see where this takes you.
So you bought another ticket to Rome?
Bought a one-way ticket.
One-way ticket?
Yeah, and I stayed here till I ran out of money and then went home.
What about the old visa issues and all that stuff?
I wasn't here 3 months. I ran out of money pretty fast.
Oh, really? You come over.
That Green Day money didn't go far.
Yeah. Where did you stay?
Well, that's the problem. I was staying in hotels. I was eating in restaurants. When you're young and traveling, you're supposed to like sleep on benches or in hostels and eat bread.
I remember when I lived in New York for 5 years before coming here to Rome, but I wanted to test it to see what it was like. And I worked in a TV show in Ireland, the Today Show, but it took a break for the summer. So one year I went, because it's a 3-month visa, I said I'll spend most of those 3 months in New York. And I stayed in a hotel near Bryant Park, a hotel for the whole 3 months in Manhattan. Nearly bankrupted me. But at the time I thought, this is great. Yeah. I'm living in New York in a hotel. And then it's like, reality bites when you actually move over and then you're living out in Brooklyn. So when you came here, you were living in hotels, and were you sure then this is what I want to do? I want to move here and do something.
I wasn't even considering moving. I just wanted to travel. So yeah, I traveled all around Italy, and I just wanted to see the world.
So what did you do? Where did you go?
That first trip, I went to Assisi, Venice. I was in Venice for Mardi Gras, Florence.
But I mean, after you ran out of money, did you save for your next flight? Did you start knocking countries off the list, or was it straight back to Rome?
I went straight back to my parents after I ran out of money, and I needed money. So I started working in IT just to save enough money to travel.
What were you doing in IT?
Tech support.
Okay.
But I wasn't a techie guy at all. So I ended up becoming like the quality assurance guy.
Okay. But that's not for you. You didn't like it.
No, but it paid well, and I could travel.
So you did the same again. As soon as you had enough, you said, see ya.
Well, no, I would, they would allow me to take certain chunks of time off. And so I could go away for a week, come back, still have my job, or I would do a 3-weekend trip. So a few times I went to like Paris for the weekend.
And what was it you liked about the travel? Was it the sense of adventure? Was it seeing new places? Was it meeting the people? Was it learning about yourself? As people have often said to me, that when they travel, they learn more about themselves as they kind of take themselves out of their normal routine or environment.
It was all of that. But what I really loved, and it kind of ties into what I do now, is I'd find a restaurant, or I'd have an experience, and then I'd remember somebody from my past that was like, oh, I've always wanted to go to Paris. And so I'd contact them out of the blue and say, hey, you should go to Paris. I found this cheap flight. You should stay in this area. There's a great restaurant. And so I started like helping my friends and family travel.
You like sharing the experience with someone else.
Sharing the experience, yeah.
Wanting them to have the experience that you had.
Right.
Wow, okay. And in your mind, did you start thinking this could be something that I could do, like become a tour guide or have a tour company?
After a couple of years, I was like, I hate what I'm doing, which was the IT stuff. Mm-hmm. I love what I'm doing for friends and family. How can I make that my job?
And how did you do it?
I did not do it the right way. So no one should take my advice, but
we'll give it to you anyway. Here it is.
So by this point, I was married with a kid, and I went to my wife and I said, I want to start a travel company leading pilgrimages. I want to quit my job right now and start concentrating on that.
Whoa.
And she was like, all right, you have 1 year. So
before you tell me that, where did you meet her?
I met her at church in Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
Yeah.
She's from Atlanta as well.
She's from Florida.
Okay. But you met in church there.
Right.
And so you had a baby, you had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There were serious bills to be paid. And
yeah.
You said, I want to try this. She gave you a year.
Yeah. She gave me, I had the good insurance too. And she was like, all right, go ahead. Good luck. So that's not the way you should do things. Like I had no plan at all. I'd never organized a group trip. I knew nothing about the industry. I was just like, I want to do this.
But this would mean as well that you were going to be away from home a lot if you were going to be traveling with groups.
Yeah. I didn't think about it at all. I didn't think it through.
But that was very generous of your wife to say,
yeah,
I'll stay in mind
for sure.
the baby while you go and travel the world.
Well, it took a while to build up the business. It wasn't like I left the next day.
But you say you did it wrong. So What happened? What did you do so badly?
Well, I mean, if you're going to start a business, you should probably kind of have an idea of what you're doing. I knew nothing. I didn't know how to book flights for people like a group. I didn't know how to make group reservations. I didn't know how to organize a group. I literally knew nothing. I didn't know how to go to a restaurant and make a reservation for 20 people. How do you pay for that? Like, I didn't know what I was doing.
You just traveled on your own before this.
Right. Or with like one or two people. I had no business plan. I had no like money in the bank to like support us for the year that I was trying to find a trip to
Because
do.
I can imagine if you have, let's say, 20 people on a group, that's potentially 20 headaches, and people come in at different times, or flights being delayed,
Right.
or wallets being stolen, or
Yep.
different dietary requirements. It must be a lot of work to coordinate a group of people traveling in a foreign country.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you remember your first group that you took, your first serious group, where you took them and
Yeah.
what it was like?
Yeah. So my first trip, I just went to my parish priest and I said, "Hey, can I put a pilgrimage together?" And he was like, "Have you ever done this before?" I was like, "Nope." He was like, "All right." That was my guinea pig. But we had 26 people sign up. And all the things you just mentioned happened. I had somebody that missed their flight, so they had to arrive the next day. I had somebody that lost their luggage for an entire week. It never showed up. I had somebody that was celiac, like severely allergic to gluten, whereas if he had even something that touched a piece of pasta, he would die. I had all these things. And it was also during a heat wave. It was at the end of June. It was 102 degrees.
And it was here in Rome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rome and Assisi.
Did that experience not put you off it then, when you thought all these things have gone wrong? There's been so many headaches. Surely it's not worth it. I'm not making enough out of this to justify this.
No, I was like, this is great. I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
You were like, no one's dead.
No, well, almost, but yeah,
Almost, but not.
Nobody died.
So
right.
we're all back on the plane.
Yes.
And safe as can be.
Yeah.
Were you hooked from the first tour group?
I was. So I did that first group. My next trip wasn't for a whole year after that. I loved it. I loved showing people these things and my favorite places, my favorite restaurants. And yeah, I just wanted to keep doing that. So I set up my second trip. Then after that, I had my third. And the one I just finished was 170
Wow, you've done 170
groups. Yeah.
groups. Do you still today enjoy it as much as you did at the start?
Absolutely.
Now, really?
No, really.
Or do you think, I've got to go get another group together. We're going to Slovakia tomorrow, and this is going to be, there's difficult people on this one, or there's, I don't know, there's problems already. Weather, the flights are coming in late.
I like all the things that come up. Makes it exciting. I've had a few, like, I've had food poisoning, and I've never had anyone get arrested. I've had the police called a few times.
Really?
Yeah.
Police called for what?
Well, if you get a bunch of people together
You
that...
bringing rowdy people over?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
No, but the people fighting in the group?
I've had a fight. Yeah, I've had a couple fights.
Like physical fights?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
But you're organizing Catholic groups primarily.
Right.
And these are normally people they're not like young teenagers or people in their 20s.
I mean, sometimes I have teenagers and 20-year-olds, but
But normally they're what age?
I would say like mid-30s to mid-60s
Okay.
is the main range.
But you had a fight once?
I've had a few fights, yeah.
What would they be fighting over?
I have no idea. But what I was saying is you get people together. This is their vacation, even though it's a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Unlimited wine.
Oh, yes.
So they drink. They have a little too much fun. They get loud.
But what is the best part? Is it the challenges and the things that come up and the unpredictability of it? Or is there something more that is...
Well, the best part for me is experiencing all these things through other people's eyes. So I've seen the Pope a lot. I've been to Ireland a number of times. I've been alone in the Sistine Chapel. And it's still exciting for me. But what's really exciting is when I take people to see the Pope for the first time or to see Ireland for the first time.
To see their reaction.
To see their reaction and live a little through them.
That's really
and experience it as they're experiencing it. So that's what I love about it. That's why it never gets old.
But even being in Rome and doing so many tours, when you're in St. Peter's Basilica again, or you're going through the Vatican museums for the umpteenth time, does it still stop you in your tracks when you look around and think, I'm walking through the Sistine Chapel?
Yeah. Yeah. So I noticed once, this was probably over a decade ago, but I had left St. Peter's without taking one last look at the Pietà. And I realized that as soon as I walked out the door, I was like, did I just take this for granted? And so I went back in and I looked at the Pietà, and now I never leave St. Peter's without looking at the Pietà. Wow. And I do that at other places too. Like, I just always want to live in the moment and remind myself that how blessed I am to be doing what I'm doing and where I am. So I don't always have a big wow moment, but I do intentionally like look over at something or take note.
When did it start to become a viable business? So your wife gave you a year, you did a few tours, and now you're living here. You have two children, two
Yes.
beautiful girls.
Yes.
You have you're a third child as well. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Who I read that on your website the other day, and you said who's watching us from above.
Right.
What happened?
We lost her. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that at all. Well, what age was she?
It was at birth.
At
so,
birth,
yeah.
okay. But it's beautiful that you still count her.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, on the website. What, I forget how you phrased it. We have three
And one
children.
watching from above, I think I say.
One watching from above, yeah.
Yeah.
Was she the first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then your two girls now today, what age are they?
19 and 15.
Teenagers.
Yep.
How's that going?
They act like it.
Really? But I've met them. They're charming. They're
Absolutely.
They're
No, I
so
love them.
sweet.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, a lot of teenagers might be like, Dad, I don't want to go with you.
Yeah,
But they
no.
come with you on a lot of the tours.
They do. Yeah. No, they love it. Yeah. They go on a lot of my pilgrimages and help me out around Rome with stuff. So
So when did it take off for you? When did it start to become a success and you thought, I'd never have to go back to IT. I can make this work?
I knew right away I was never going back to IT. I was going to make this work somehow. But it took probably 5 years before I made any money on a trip. Like I lost money on some and...
You were undercharging and...
Oh, yeah.
What about during the tougher times, like when the pandemic hit and Italy was the worst affected in Europe? It was the
Right.
first to really get the brunt of it. And I remember seeing on television all those images of the elderly Italians, especially in the north of Italy.
Right.
And they were filling the hospitals and there was huge death rates. Tourism stopped. It was actually impossible to get here. The flights were banned from
Right.
flying transatlantic. So what happened to the business then? Did you think this is a game over?
No, I didn't think it was game over, but I had to decide, like, are we going to go back to the U.S. or stay here? How long is this going to be? I mean, no one knew. We decided to stay in Rome, and I'm so glad I did because as soon as, the lockdown was over here, I was able to go out and show Rome to people that were stuck at home. And so rather than doing group tours, I was doing social media tours. And I would go out pretty much every day. I would make a video of something, a church, take people to restaurants, show how food was made. And that became like my business for a year and a half.
You were doing like these virtual pilgrimages.
Right.
And then with the help of Patreon, people could subscribe and it worked out.
It was great.
It worked out pretty well.
And I fought that for probably like 6 months.
Why did you fight it?
Because I thought it was weird. Like, what am I going to charge people to watch stuff?
A video, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't my style. And then people just kept saying, you need to do it. You need to do it. We want to help you. And I was like, all right.
It is a strange thing. I've heard people say that about Patreon before, that if you don't feel like you're physically giving them something or they're coming on the tour,
Right.
that asking them to subscribe and pay a monthly fee.
Yeah.
And then they get in return, like you said, to watch a video. It's because you want to give people value
Right.
for money. But the reaction was good
Oh, it was great.
when you went on
I
Patreon.
was
You said, I'm
shocked.
over that worry. You're like,
Well, I mean, that's how we got through the pandemic. Like, I wouldn't have had a way to pay rent otherwise, buy food.
you had a family to support here.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, your two girls, were they homeschooled?
Yeah, we've homeschooled from the beginning. Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that?
Well, so Amelia, the older one, she went to a Catholic school for a couple years. And then when we were moving over, we decided to homeschool because we didn't know how long we would be here or what the school system would be like. So that's why we did it. And it gives us freedom to travel.
And how did it work out? Would you do it again?
The homeschool?
Yeah.
Well, I don't do it. Christina does. But
Okay,
sure.
well, easy peasy. You are living
Sure, I
the
would
dream.
do it again.
You're like, I don't know what happens. I leave first thing in the morning. I come back after dark.
That's not true, but yeah.
I'm joking. But, you hear it in mixed things about homeschooling.
Yeah.
Some people think it's the greatest thing you can do for your child because of the intimacy and the time you get to
Right.
spend with them. Then others say, no, the children will be socially awkward. They haven't got that experience of the rough and tumble of being in school, the good, the bad, and the ugly that forms a character and relationships with people. And you meet people that you're going to meet in the real world, good
Right.
people, bad people. When you reflect on that or look back, you and your wife, do you think, we're really glad we homeschooled, or maybe we should have?
No, I think we did absolutely the right thing. As far as socializing, I mean, like in the US, there's support systems for that. There's a lot of people that homeschool. Here, there's not.
Yeah.
But right after we moved over, we put the kids in Scouts, which is at the church here. That's how they do their catechism and all that. And so my kids are more social than I was at that age.
Yeah.
Like they're at the church 4 or 5 days a week.
And I've met your girls a few times with
Yeah.
you when they're just going camping or coming back
Right,
or
yeah.
going to a concert or something like that. And it's really sweet when your parents come to visit. Your dad, Mick, will sing songs with Amelia.
Yeah.
And I've listened to some of them. They're so beautiful.
Hey, thank you. Yeah.
I got I had a CD of your dad's music on his own inspired by the Holy Land.
Right.
And it was so beautiful because I'd just come back from the Holy Land. But then I found on YouTube there was the songs. There was one where they were harmonizing. What was it called again?
I don't know. They do that on a few, but
Yeah, it was just so beautiful. It was really, really, it was just I forget, just a look or just a kiss or something like that. But it was like a beautiful, beautiful song.
yeah. My dad taught Amelia guitar from a young age. So she writes her own songs. She sings, plays.
How are people affected when they come to Rome? Let's say for the first time, someone who is maybe lukewarm about the faith or Catholic by name only, and then they come and they experience St. Peter's Basilica, they experience the other basilicas around the city. Have you seen people affected by the city?
I've had a lot of that, but the biggest place for like a reconversion or somebody that wants to come back to their faith who might be lukewarm is the Scala Santa.
The steps.
So those are the holy stairs originally in Jerusalem. St. Helena brought them here. They're the steps that Jesus climbed when he was condemned to death. And so people go up on their knees. And so it's kind of painful, not something that most people are used to. But that's where I've seen the most people come back to their faith. So they might be like a +1 or a spouse of somebody who's more hardcore Catholic. And I take people there. They go up on their knees. They get to the top. They're crying. They want to go to confession for the first time in a decade. They want to receive the Eucharist. I see that all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
In that particular place?
In that particular place, yeah.
More than anywhere else?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of people that cry the first time they walk into St. Peter's too.
Really?
Because of all the beauty. But the Scala Santa is where I see the most.
And what about you, Mountain, for your own faith? How has it changed and developed over the years?
Well, that's a good question because I'm
Thank
always
you.
wanting to have I'm always wanting to have this wow moment that I see my people have, and I never do. So I'm still trying to work through that. Like, I don't cry. Like, if I go up to Scala Santa, I appreciate it. I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. But I don't get to the top and I'm in tears. Or when I see the Pope, I'm not in tears like some of my people.
But is that just because to you, you have seen it so many times? And I imagine that when you're in those moments, you're not fully immersed. I think it's a bit like when we go reporting. It's when I come back and I'm watching an interview I did. Sometimes I will get very teary watching it. If a woman is telling me about, like when I was in Ukraine recently, I lost my family. And in the moment, you're emotional and you're there. But I'm thinking about this camera, that camera, that camera. Is the lighting okay? Is the sound? I just heard a plane go by. Do I need her to say that again? So you're also thinking of the job you're doing, which sounds strange, but that's just the reality of it. We have to bring back a TV report. So often when I go back and I watch it and I go, oh, wow, like then it really hits me. So maybe in those moments, you're there, but you're also, are my group okay?
Yeah,
Where are these other people and are we going to be on time?
I'm glad you said that because maybe that's why. Because I'm always watching my people, counting my people. Is this person okay?
Are there phones in their pockets? Are there pickpockets around?
Right.
Which is a real concern in Rome. but has it strengthened your faith?
Yeah.
Or has it weakened your faith? I've heard people say that coming to Rome and seeing the Vatican up close.
Oh, well,
for
yeah,
some
for
people
sure.
it can,
Like, yeah, you see a lot of
it
stuff.
can damage their faith.
I don't know if it's weakened or strengthened. It's not something I really think about. I mean,
Well, think about it now, will you?
I think I think when you're in Rome, especially, it's just a part of your life. And I mean, we have 985 churches, and I walk down the street, I go into a church, I say a prayer. It's just a part of it. So I don't know if I pray more. I definitely don't pray less than I used to.
Now, what age are you? Can I ask a rude question?
What's that?
What age are you?
49.
Look at the way he pretended he couldn't hear. He's like, what's that? I can't hear you. I'm sorry. My hearing is gone. By the way, before I came here, I just came from a hearing test. Have you ever had a hearing test done
No.
before? It's the first time ever.
Yeah?
Yeah. My girlfriend Paula was like, you should go and get this thing done. Because when I'm in restaurants, this is a mad tangent, but sometimes I'm like this, if there's like loads of people around, and I thought maybe my hearing is going from years of wearing headphones on radio. So just before I was with you, I was getting a hearing test done.
How did it go?
He said that my hearing was perfect, and he tested, he plays headphones on, played different chimes and frequencies at different levels and amplitudes, this ear, that ear. And he said, if you put up your thumb, if you can hear, I was going bum, 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 bum. And then he said, yeah, you're slightly just above average. Your hearing is perfect. And I was like,
That'll show her.
I'll show her. And she was always saying, you're listening to music too loud in your headphones. And I'm like, well, the doctor said, keep doing what you're doing. Because I hear a pin drop from a mile away.
That's right.
What did you say about hearing? And I jumped to that.
Oh, you asked me how old I was.
Yes. And you pretended you couldn't hear.
And I said, I'm 49.
You're 49.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to ask you about as well is I saw you online a few weeks ago going on these mad rants. They were very entertaining about Taylor Swift not being satanic. I'll just leave that there and I'll let you fill in. No, okay, you're a massive Taylor Swift fan.
I'm a big fan, yeah. For over a decade.
How many concerts have you been to?
On the current tour, 8.
8 of the concerts.
Yeah.
But in general, how many Taylor Swift concerts have you been to?
Well, 9. I went to one 10 years ago.
What is it you love about Taylor Swift?
Great performer, great artist, great songwriter. It's just fun, and the people are fun.
And why were you putting up the videos recently defending your love of Taylor Swift? Why did you feel like you had to do that?
Well, okay, so
you got hundreds of thousands of followers.
yeah,
And obviously there was a group of your following who were annoyed that you were going to Taylor Swift.
yes,
And you were putting it on your social media.
well, so for my younger daughter's birthday, we took her to the show in Paris, which was the opening show for the European leg of her tour, and it's the hardest ticket to get in America to go to her show. Like, people pay thousands of dollars to scalpers to sit behind the stage, basically. And
so it's easier in Europe.
It's much easier in Europe. So we went to all 4 shows in Paris, and I got the tickets like the day of or the day before. I paid €90 to be on the floor, like super cheap. And so I just put it out there like, hey, we just went to all 4 Taylor Swift shows. This is how you can get tickets so you don't get ripped off like in America. It was very like, that's it. I wasn't like, yay, Taylor. I was just like, we did this. Here's how you can do it. And people were just like, you are satanic.
What?
You're promoting witchcraft.
What?
Yeah, just attacking me. And I've heard people, it doesn't bother me when people attack me. But it just went on and on and on. And it's mostly from anonymous people on the internet.
Yeah.
But I started looking into like, why do they think she's a witch? Why do they think she's satanic?
But was some of it from people that you knew?
A few things, yeah.
And that had been on tours before?
Yeah, a couple of people.
Ooh. Yeah. And when you looked into it and you saw...
Yeah, I was like, well, why do people think this? And I looked into it and I was like, oh, that's stupid. And so I explained it.
So you did videos defending your love of Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I was just going to write like one post. And that turned into like a whole essay. And then I was like, oh, I'll make a video to accompany the essay.
It was just really funny.
And so I broke it down.
I'm scrolling and I normally see you showing beautiful churches and, hey, I'm having this dish of cacio e pepe and this beautiful Tuscany wine. And then the next post is like, here's why Taylor Swift is not satanic. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm like, gotta watch this. And is it because they were saying, well, look, because she supports values and morals that are not...
It's not even that. I mean, people do have issues with it.
Yeah.
And I even said in my videos, if you have an issue with the things she supports, that's one thing, but that doesn't make her satanic or a witch. And it's all from like clips of her songs or videos that have what she's meaning to be one thing and people are interpreting as something else. But all of her fans know what she's talking about.
Like people have always done with music and
Yeah.
playing tracks backwards and
Right.
trying to take out meanings that aren't there. And
Yeah, but it's just the level of attack that people have for her that they don't for other things. Like I've gone to a lot of concerts this year, posted about them, and you could find something bad in any of them, and people are just like, oh, cool.
is it because some of the followers think that because you are branding yourself as Catholic, the Catholic traveler, and you're in and around the Vatican, that everything you post must be squeaky clean,
Right.
and in no way connected to anything that contradicts the teachings
Yes.
of the Catholic Church. So when you're tweeting a lot about Taylor Swift and a lot of stuff that she believes and opposes the teachings of the church, they're
Right.
saying, well, how can you call yourself the Catholic traveler?
Right. And then I point out that you're on Instagram who supports all the same things she does, and they make a lot more money. And they're like, oh.
Oh yeah, they're using the platform
Right.
that supports the... so it's kind of like unavoidable in...
I mean, it is. I mean, you could avoid stuff if you want, but then what are you going to do?
Yeah. So did it annoy you? It must have annoyed you a bit to...
It was fun. I had fun with it.
You had fun with it? Did you enjoy making those videos, or were you a bit kind of cheesed off?
No, I wanted to explain to people that, hey, look, I'm not satanic because I listen to Taylor Swift, which just sounds ridiculous. And so I just enjoyed making the videos. And then when people would argue, I had fun arguing back.
Did they get a lot of traction, the videos?
Yeah, for the most part. And I've gotten a lot of emails and messages from people thanking me.
For doing the videos?
A lot of like moms would write to me and say, thank you. I didn't understand about this. My kids are big fans. Now I get it. So that's nice. And they also wanted me to break down other songs. Like, well, you broke down all these songs. What does this one mean? And that's like my side business now. Well, I don't get paid for it.
We live in a very divided world, and even within
yeah.
the Catholic Church. Do you sense that division a lot?
Oh, yeah. I posted a picture of me of Cardinal Burke, and all these people attack me for posting a picture of Cardinal Burke. And the next day I'll post a picture of Pope Francis, and the other side will attack me for posting a picture of Pope Francis. So
what do you do to try and mitigate that, or do you just ignore it?
Yeah, just ignore it. Or I have fun arguing for a few minutes and then drop it.
It's a shame to see, isn't it, the division?
Yeah. Yeah, but everything is divided these days.
Yeah.
I mean, if I post a picture of what I think is the best carbonara in Rome, people attack that.
Where is the best carbonara in Rome?
I think it's at Abruzzi.
Where's that?
It's near the Trevi Fountain.
We're going for a bite to eat after this. Where are we going to go?
Wherever you want.
Somewhere in Borgo Pio?
Probably.
Yeah. But now, look, you have this on your website. This was my deep research. I printed off this sheet from your website. Random things about me. My name is Mountain. Seriously. People often ask me this when I say I'm friends with Mountain. They're like, is that his real name or is that a nickname? What's the deal with that?
It's a real name.
Were you born up a mountain or something? Or?
No, my parents just wanted something different. They thought that sounded good.
There you go. My mother was a punk with purple hair. Did she still have the purple hair?
No. Now she's natural.
She's a beautiful lady.
Thank you.
I can tell because I've met her a few times. I'm a convert. You're in the music industry. You used to DJ in clubs and underground dance parties and full-on raves.
Yeah.
Like, how heavy were these raves? Were they... oots, oots, oots?
Yeah. Yeah, they were big raves. I still have all my records, too.
So you were, like, mixing records? You were...
mixing records. This is before the electronic stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You're the reason why Chick-fil-A says my pleasure.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Do you know Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard them say my pleasure?
No.
Oh. So they're known, that's like their catchphrase. If you say thank you, they have to say my pleasure.
The people at the counter.
Yes. And so they're kind of known for that. So when I worked in IT, remember I told you I wasn't very good with the tech stuff.
Yeah.
But they had me on quality assurance. So if you've ever called a help desk before and you heard like call may be monitored for quality assurance, I was the guy listening in on the calls.
Oh, wow.
And so I was over all these help desks, like a bunch of pharmaceutical companies. There was a military grade aluminum company. One of our clients was Chick-fil-A. And so I would listen in on the calls to make sure everybody was treating the customers well. And they all had the opening line down, like, thank you for calling so-and-so. This is so-and-so. How may I help you? But after that, it just went down. So if somebody said, if they had a problem, they needed to put somebody on hold. Sometimes they would say, hold, please. Sometimes they would say, hold on. Sometimes they would just put people on hold. So I had to like come up with a way to put people on hold. And then at the end of a call, when somebody would say, okay, thank you, I had to come up with a way to say you're welcome. Because sometimes people would say you're welcome. Sometimes they would say no problem.
Why do you want them all sounding like robots?
Well,
reading the same script.
Well, it's not reading a script, but you need to have some consistency. If you're calling a help desk, you don't want, sometimes you call, you get great service, and sometimes you have somebody that you say thank you, they're like, So I came up with across the board, we're going to say my pleasure when somebody says thank you.
Really?
Everybody hated it. They thought that was stupid.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
My
Because
pleasure.
it's better than you're welcome, because that's saying like, oh, you're welcome to call me again. But if we say my pleasure, it's like it's our pleasure to help you. And so our Chick-fil-A client, it was just their home office in Atlanta. So it wasn't the stores. But like if the home office had a problem with the printer or something, they would call us. And so we'd say, my pleasure, after they said thank you. And the founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, heard it and he liked it. And he eventually moved that into the stores.
Wow. So you're the man behind that.
I am the man. And on my last Holy Land trip, I had a couple of executives from Chick-fil-A who were there from the beginning, like when Truett Cathy started it.
Yes.
And they asked me about it. And I was really nervous telling that story to the group.
Because they saw it on your website.
Right. And because they were there. And I was like, well, what if they don't think of it that way?
What if they don't like that we
Right.
say my pleasure? Because sometimes it's not a pleasure.
Well, no, I just didn't want them to say that's not true in front of a bunch of people.
In front of everyone.
And so I told the story and they're like, oh yeah, I remember the help desk. I remember they were saying that. You're right. And then I said, I've never gotten any money for it, which is a shame because that's their catchphrase. And so the one guy brought up a stack of free Chick-fil-A cards. He said, well, now you've been paid.
How many Chick-fil-A's do you get for free?
I don't know, like 7 or something.
So see, you got this going. You're so smart. You got the Green Day money trickling in. The meter's turning.
Yeah.
You got the Chick-fil-A thing going on.
Chick-fil-A money, yeah.
You got the Catholic Traveler. You got some deal going on with Taylor Swift. I don't know what it is. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. But you got all these streams coming into the Nile, to that big river.
I wish. I'm going to go home feeling really bad about myself
You're
now.
a smart guy.
Because none of this is true.
You're a smart guy. That's great. Well, hey, Mountain, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah,
I'm glad we cleared up the whole Taylor Swift thing. You getting into the business, you establishing your fantastic business here. And for those who don't know, we live on the same street, more or less, right next to the Vatican, Borgo Pio, one of the oldest streets. This is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Rome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or did I just make that up?
You kind of made it up. But
Did
yeah.
I? Okay.
It's been around
Yeah.
a long time.
I heard that it was one of the oldest
No, it
neighborhoods.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phew. And Pope Francis is her neighbour. The Vatican is just next
He
door.
is, yeah.
And you've just come back from Ireland, as I mentioned, and I've caught you to do this interview because is it tomorrow or the next day? You're heading off again.
To see Taylor Swift, yeah.
Oh, is it Taylor Swift again?
Yeah, again.
Where are you going?
Milan. But then in a couple weeks, I have a pilgrimage to Poland.
To Poland.
Yeah.
Where have you not gone yet that you really want to go?
I would like to go to Iraq someday.
Oh, I'm heading there
A
in
lot
October.
of biblical stuff. Oh, cool.
Yeah, going back in October. Or organize at the same time. How long does it normally take you to organize a trip? How fast could you turn one around?
My Ireland trip that I just did, I announced it and the trip was like a month later.
Okay. But for somewhere like Iraq, it would take a lot longer.
Yeah, a lot longer because
get
I don't
the
know
old
anything.
Security clearances and all that. Is there any place you would not go?
Yeah, I would not go back to one place, but that would be very controversial for me to say. You want me to say it, don't you?
Yeah.
Medjugorje.
Medjugorje?
Yeah, I never go back there.
Why not?
I didn't like it.
Really? Mm-hmm. Why not?
It just fell off.
But what do you mean by that?
So I've taken a lot of people to Fatima. I've taken a lot of people to Lourdes, and that feels good. I took people to Medjugorje, and it felt like a sales pitch the whole time we were there. Like everybody we encountered, they're like, why aren't you staying here a whole week? Everybody stays here a week. Why are you only here for a day? And I just kept thinking, like, nobody goes to Fatima or Lourdes for a week unless it's like military pilgrimage or a healing pilgrimage. And then there's so many people that go to Medjugorje that are like, oh, someday I'd like to go to Lourdes or Fatima. I'm like, you flew over them to get here. And they're like, I've been to Medjugorje 30 times, but I've never been to Rome.
To you, it was too commercialized?
I don't know if it's commercial. It just felt weird. It felt off to me.
You were just there once?
Just there once, yeah.
I haven't been to Medjugorje. I've been to Fatima and I've been to Lourdes. Two beautiful places.
Yeah.
And I thought Lourdes would be commercialized because it's so famous. But I didn't get the sense that it was. The hotel was nice on the main street.
Yeah.
And you just walk straight down the basilica, the candlelight procession at night. It was really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I was there during the military pilgrimage as well,
Right.
which was incredible to see militaries from all over the world marching together and praying the rosary. And so that's interesting about Medjugorje, because some people have said to me, you should go, you should see it. And
Yeah, I'm glad I went, but I don't want to go back. And also, they're still going on every day. Every day, there's a Marian apparition at the same time. It's been going on for, I think, 44 years, which is longer than God spoke to Moses. Mary's talking to these people.
so you're thinking you just have to be cautious about, especially if you're bringing a group of people and,
Right.
they're,
And I'm not going to take away from the experiences people have.
yeah.
Like, even people that I took on this pilgrimage that I did a few months ago, there were people that had amazing experiences. It was a healing moment for them. So great things definitely happen there. It just feels off to me.
For you.
Yeah.
Interesting. And did you have that feeling as soon as you got there, or was it something that developed over?
As soon as I got there.
You just felt there's something not right here.
Mm-hmm.
But the people on your trip had an okay time?
No, about half and half, yeah.
Really? Did you talk to the group about it?
No, this is the first. You're getting the exclusive.
Wow. Well,
Because I'm not going to say that to them. They're like, oh, I love this. This was the whole reason I came on the trip. It's like, oh, I didn't like it at all.
really?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
That's interesting. So, hey, I'm trying to think of anything to wrap this up to ask you. I feel like I've asked you loads of great stuff and you've been so generous. Do you like doing podcasts?
Yeah, with you, yeah. You're a good interviewer.
Stop that, please. Stop. Oh, okay, you did stop. I thought that would go on for another
You thought
few
I would
minutes.
keep going?
Yeah. So when are you going back to the States? When are you going back home?
For sure in October, but we might go back sooner.
Will you be in Italy for the rest of your days, or do you think someday I'll move back to the US?
Who knows? Never know.
You
I love
never
it
know.
here, but
If the police keep getting called and you're in
Yeah.
your groups, you might have no choice.
I
Eh?
might have no choice.
Back to the music industry.
Yeah, it's a fun lifestyle. For
It is.
sure.
Do you
Living
feel
it.
like you're living the dream?
Yeah, yeah.
You really are.
Like I said, it's my dream. It's not for everyone, but I love it. I love my job. I love where I live.
Two final questions. One, a lot of people watching this will be like you were when you worked in IT. They're not passionate about their job. In fact, they dislike it and they have a dream of some sort to get into acting, to become a singer, to just move and live somewhere else, but they don't have the courage to do it because there's a lot at stake.
Do it. Yeah, do it. Like what?
What gave you the courage?
Well, for me, it was stupidity. Like I said, I didn't have a plan. I just did it. But like, do it. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 20 years and it's been successful. I mean, it started slow, but like you said, living my dream.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
It wasn't. But if people have a passion, like, follow your passions.
I interviewed someone the other night for the podcast and they said, travel experiences are useless unless you learn something from them. They were talking about traveling the world. They'd been to North Korea and Afghanistan and they organized these kind of extreme tours, extreme tourism. But that was an interesting thing when they said travel experiences are useless unless you learn something from them. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned over the years from traveling so much, different cultures, different people, different experiences?
I mean, it just broadened my mind, really. I can't pinpoint one thing I've learned, but that the world is bigger than just Atlanta where I grew up.
Can you pinpoint one thing so I can clip it for the podcast and put it out on social media?
Pinpoint one thing. I don't know. You have an example of...
What I've learned is that people are mainly good everywhere you go. Because when I went to Iraq for the first time, I remember being fearful because you hear so many things. It's a barbaric land with barbaric people, and it's, you know, the cradle of terrorism in that region of the world. And yes, there are certainly ugly elements of that, and they have that cancer in society. But the majority of the people you meet are just like us, even though they look different, they sound different. But at the end of the day, they want to get by. They have kids, they have a wife, they have a husband, and they just want people to be nice to them. And that was a big thing that I learned once. Someone said, Colm, no matter where you go, whether it's Argentina or Australia or Angola, if you're just nice to people you meet, doors will open and you'll have a great experience. And I practice that everywhere I go, and it really, really works.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's so simple.
Yeah. That's the clip you should use.
Okay. Mountain, it was great talking to you. This was a good rehearsal. We should record this someday. So come over someday and I'll roll the cameras, okay?
That'd be great, yeah.
Thank you so much.